Hey guys, just thought I'd share Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson, published in 1958. Here we go. He's a black guy, used to be a communist. Let me go over to the first highlighted section. Boom. Man, render you. Okay. I was lured into the Red Movement by way of the American Negro Labor Congress, one of the many front organizations set up by the communists to trap the naive, unwary, unsuspecting, and idealistic Negro. All right. I think I know where he's going with this. This was in the 30s and the 40s. Let's keep it moving. Never once were we allowed to forget the vacillating, uncertain, untrustworthy character of the Negro intellectual, the Negro minister, the Negro petty bourgeois, the Negro reformist, and the white social, liberal, philanthropic, humanitarian supporter. Sounds familiar. They are accused on the basis of experience of running frantically from one camp, red, to the other, capitalist, when the going gets tough. So that when communists unite with and support them today, it is necessary to keep in mind that it may be necessary to denounce them tomorrow and the day after tomorrow hang them. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we call useful idiots. These are all the social media companies. These are all the intellectuals and the mainstream media right now camping, caping for the left, for Black Lives Matter, for the communists and the Marxists today. Back in the 30s and the 40s, this was the Communist Party of the USA, and this is what they told the black folks in that party. Keep in mind that we're going to use these people now, but you must know that they're flip-floppers, and that when we take over, they're going to have to go. This is standard operating procedure for the communist dictatorship. Same thing happened in the Soviet Union, Cuba, etc., etc. The Cornel Wests, the Michael Eric Dysons, what's the name of this guy? The Don Lemons, all these people, they're gonna go once the communists take over. Keep it moving. Subverting Negro churches. This should be fun. Created doubt, lack of confidence, suspicion, setting up situations that bring about racial bitterness, violence, and conflict, putting forth demands so unrealistic that race relations are worsened. Reminds me of what happened to the Cuban restaurant in Louisville, Kentucky, where some of these crazy activists vandalized, the restaurant, and then because the restaurant would not comply with their demands of hiring 23% black people and giving, I think, 1.3% of their profits to some black organization. Attacking everybody in disagreement as reactionaries, fascists, Antifa, Ku Kluxers, ethno-nationalists, or neo-fascists, or whatever they want to call Trump supporters, or just normal people, conservatives, among whites, and Uncle Toms among Negroes. Wow, there's actually a movie called Uncle Tom, you should watch it. But wow, they were using Uncle Tom back in the day. Back in the day. This BLM stuff is super rehashed. This is ridiculous. Constitute the Reds' pattern of operation. Fortunately, the overwhelming majority of Negroes, this was almost 100 years ago, so, in whose name the communists and their ilk presume to speak, have not fallen to the blandishments of the Reds. They know a red light when they see one. The same cannot be said of many Negro intellectuals carrying the ball for communists, since the communists have always looked upon Negro intellectuals as shallow, superficial, phrasemongers, and incompetents looking for a loaf when they, on the basis of ability, are not worthy of a crumb. Wow. their pro-communist behavior becomes all the more tragic and ludicrous. Facts. Only after the order came from Moscow in the 1934-35 period to win over the Negro intellectual by deceptive flattery and adulation did the Reds' public attitude toward them change. The Kremlin concluded that these superficial phonies could serve the cause of communism. What? Jesse Jackson, what? We gotta rethink the whole civil rights movement, I think. We gotta see why people were assassinated. We gotta see whom these organizations were founded by. We have to go back and see what has been done to the black community in this country. Let's keep it moving. The resolution on the Negro question stated, in the work among the Negroes, special attention should be paid to the role played by the churches and the preachers who are acting on behalf of American imperialism. The party must conduct a continuous and carefully worked up campaign among the Negro masses, sharpened primarily against the preachers and the churchmen, who are the agents of the oppressors of the Negro race. You know what? I said that in an American accent. Let me try the Russian one. In the work among the Negroes, special attention should be paid to the role played by the churches and the preachers who are acting on behalf of American imperialism. The party must conduct a continuous and carefully worked out campaign among the Negro masses, sharpened primarily against the preachers and the churchmen, who are the agents of the oppressors of the Negro race. I don't know if that was a good Russian, but whatever. All the instructions from Moscow at the time ordered Reds to combat the influence of the church. Wow. Right, they're atheists. Communists are atheists. We all know this. Because the church, by offering to the Negro worker and peasant for the miseries they are enduring in this world, compensation in heaven, are befogging the minds of the Negro workers and peasants, making them a helpless prey to capitalism and imperialism. Just like Yuri Bezmenov says, you cut that link between man and God, between the divine and man, and you replace that, the divine, with the state. That's what they were trying to do. Let's keep it moving. All right. Hold on, let me see something here. They used to call black preachers sky pilots. Wow. But that changed later on because they infiltrated the church. Well, let's keep it moving, guys. White ministers acting as missionaries using the race angle as bait aided in the cultivation of Negro ministers for work in the red solar system of organizations. So now they're recruiting the black church. Before they were making fun, before they were trying to discredit religion. But now, since they saw that it was so important to black people, you cannot simply separate black people from the church. They decided to use the black church. Bribery through gifts, paid lectures, flattery through long applause at staged rallies, favorable mention in the red-controlled press were not the only methods employed to corrupt the Negro ministers. The use of sex and perversion as a means of political blackmail was an accepted red tactic. Black Florida man, what was his name? He was running for, I believe, governor. Mayor of Jacksonville got caught naked, I think almost overdosing, in a South Beach hotel. At the same time that all this was going on at the top, the comrades were building cells. Where are they now? Come on. Below in the church to guarantee that decisions made at the top will be brought down to the congregation. Wow. All right. Through the aforementioned organizations and many others, Negro institutions of higher education like Howard University were penetrated to subvert teachers and students and thus politically contaminate the intellectual stream of Negro life. Institutions of higher education subverted teachers and students, contaminate the intellectual stream of Negro life. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Anybody? Come on now. Let's keep it moving. Boom. Many Negro intellectuals, artists, professionals, etc., were carried away with this outburst of interracialism. Here was an opportunity to be accepted by the other racial group. Secretly, they had always wanted to get away from the other Negroes. Moving around among whites would somehow add to their stature and endow a feeling of importance. So they went after communist interracialism like a hog going after slop. Yep, we gotta talk about this forced integration at some point, because it's not clear to me, and he makes mention of this in this book. Please read it. Chinese folks have their own neighborhoods. Jewish folks have their own neighborhood. But Italians have their own neighborhood. Everyone has their own neighborhood. And they're not called ghettos. They're just cultural, authentic places. Yet black folks lived in ghettos. Which is very strange. This is language, communist language. Don't get me wrong. I mean, segregation laws were wrong, unjust, and evil. But you shouldn't just try to make people live together or learn together, right? You should just eliminate the segregation laws and let each community develop. But that's not what they did. They pushed integration to create racial tension. Integration is not the same as abolishing segregation laws. Remember this. I know some black people complain about, oh, Black Wall Street and black this and black that. Well, y'all wanted integration, or not y'all, but the communists, the black communists pushed integration and destroyed, the affluence of many black people, of the black community. It halted the progress that was being made in black communities. So, yeah, that's interesting. Here we go. So this is an example. A well-known Negro real estate man called together a group of prominent Negro intellectuals and professionals for the purpose of launching a Negro housing development through the purchase of land and home construction. Such a project, he argued, would go a long way in showing other races that Negroes can build ideal communities and maintain standards second to none. He had maps showing fine locations that even from a land purchase angle proved that it was a good investment. But he couldn't get to first base. Why? Because they were against setting up Negro communities, that is, segregating ourselves. They, he said, were all for integration in white communities. Yep. I don't know why. I mean, they want to integrate, but then they complain about gentrification and white flight. Make up your minds. Well, you can't make up your minds because there is a communist mind rape that has been going on for decades. So yeah, they're bipolar right now, There's a large segment of the black community is bipolar because there's like a communist brain parasite in there. They want to create generational wealth. At the same time, they vote for Democrats that want to implement an inheritance tax. Makes no sense. That's because the commies penetrated the black community a long time ago. Remember this. I am convinced that the whole reason that black people are lagging in this country is because of this. the communists never let the wound of slavery heal. They never, every time it was scab over, they would just pick at it, pick at it, and pick at it, and pick at it. And we're living that today. Yeah. Significant it is to note that the Reds and so-called progressives never spend money on projects to help the Negroes unless these projects pay off in race conflict and animosity. They know that the blockbuster, like the interloper and party crasher, is always resented and usually gets the bum's rush. That is why they seek to cast the Negro in such a light. It builds up open and hidden resentment that can be exploited. It could be that this blockbuster might be sort of like a, if it's not a sit-in, then maybe it's, you know, that whole deal with moving black people into white neighborhoods and busting the block. Could be that. New York City as a melting pot. At best, this is only wishful thinking. The numerous racial and national groups are easily identified today as ever. Oh, yo, this guy is awesome. He's just calling out facts. Facts. Yeah, man, there's Koreatown, there's Chinatown, there's Harlem, there's, you know, man, get out of here. This guy is speaking mad facts. All right, moving on. The communists, through propaganda, have sold a number of Negro intellectuals the idea that the Negro section is a ghetto, that white Americans created it, set its geographical boundaries, that it is the product of race hate and the inhumanity of white Americans. Therefore, it is a struggle of Negro against white oppressors for emancipation. Naturally, those holding such views have no community pride, no interest in doing anything to improve its services, because that would be aiding and abetting segregation and maintenance of the ghetto. Is that why the ghetto looks so bad? These were also Negro intellectuals, artists, professionals, politicians, etc., seeking a ladder to success. They are used according to the strategic needs of the Communist Party. In preparation for their treacherous role, the party passes along the word covertly or openly to give them preferred treatment. Forces, money, publicity, etc. are used in the build-up to change comparative Negro unknowns into national and international race leaders. Gotta know your race leaders. Who are these people? Interesting. Few men want the medicine the Reds gave the late Senator Joseph McCarthy, which the Reds boast is the best cure for militant anti-communists. We're going to talk about this later once I finish reading Blacklisted by History, the story of Joseph McCarthy, because Joseph McCarthy died very quickly out of nowhere from hepatitis, and the media and what I believe were agents basically attributed his death to cirrhosis of the liver, even though it's not confirmed, which is a weird part. You could just do an autopsy and find out, but it wasn't done, and he died of hepatitis, and that's it. Yeah, man, Soviets and communists, and you'll see it. I think right now there's a Russian politician that was poisoned. Cuba poisons opposition leaders all the time. Gave AIDS to Ariel Ruiz Urquiola. Yeah. So there's a lot going on, and a lot has happened, and McCarthy was right. All right, as soon as this clears up, we'll read it. Here we go. Except for a brief period during the latter 1930s, the Reds called those persons Uncle Toms who sought solution of the race problem through the medium of education, patience, understanding, and discussion, which would lead to mutual agreement. Since any program leading to a peaceful resolution of the race problem automatically excludes and dooms Red efforts among Negroes, it goes without saying that the Reds are going to oppose it. The chief targets are the responsible advocates of such a program. They must be discredited and isolated from the masses. So the Larry Elders, the Candace Owens, anybody with common sense. Thomas Sowell, who knows Thomas Sowell? The guy does not stop writing. He's like 90 something, 92. Incredible man. But they isolate them from the masses. So, in addition to the tags of enemy of the race, tool of the white ruling class, traitor to the race, the Reds have adopted the opprobrium of Uncle Tom. Yep, Uncle Tom, oldie. I guess an oldie but a goodie for the Reds. No man dare stand up and proclaim convictions counter to red agitation without running the certain risk of being pilloried. The Reds, their fellow travelers, leaders of the NAACP, and other race agitators have created an ideal climate for such persecution. Oh boy, the NAACP. Curiouser and curiouser. Come on now. Obvious even to the most ignorant is the fact that all people are prejudiced. No one is free of it. Prejudice, in one form or another, has existed almost as long as the human family. They arise out of the complex differences of race, nationality, religion, economic, social, and cultural standing. Prejudice is not limited to any one race. It is common to all. Neither does the color of skin determine more or less the extent of prejudice in any particular race. Excellent. What is also important to remember is that the late Dr. George W. Carver, the outstanding Negro scientist, was born of slave parentage. He did not learn to read and write until he was 20. He worked his way through school to become one of the world's greatest scientists. He didn't have the opportunity of young Negroes today meaning 1950s. Every difficulty was a challenge, so he had no time to develop complexes. The main danger and handicap to the Negro is not the Southern school, but the persecution and hate complex of the NAACP and the Reds are trying to create. Wow. Naturally, the opponents of the publication of such information are going to scream louder than 10,000 pigs caught under a fence. Charges of anti-Negro, anti-democratic bias will fill the air. Yep, Trump is a dictator, right? Old man Smear will have a field day. In this way, as in the past, any real investigation of communism or pro-communism among Negroes is headed off, defeated, or driven into a blind alley. Color and race thus becomes a sanctuary. On the one hand, patriotic and honest politicians and officials do not dare invade it critically without dire consequences to their personal reputations. It's called cancel culture. On the other hand, this same sanctuary becomes the playground not only of the Reds, but of hypocrites, demagogues, bigots, self-seekers, opportunists, conniving politicians, and other dregs of human society. Facts today. Facts. Moving on. The Negro businessman has always been a chief target of the Reds. They despise him because of his conservatism. They label him a tool of the white imperialists and an enemy of the Negro masses. Such labels are reserved for those the Reds plan to liquidate, and since the Negro businessman is an inspiration and example to other Negroes to take advantage of the countless opportunities of the free enterprise system, he is therefore an object of derision by communists. What businesses are being burned and destroyed and looted right now? Or at least, where did it start? Where are those riots? What businesses do these riots destroy? This is amazing. An enthusiastic response of the Negro to the appeal and opportunities for Negro business is a cardinal bulwark against communism. Consequently, the Reds seek to discredit, discourage, and liquidate Negro business. What? Man, these riots are serving so many purposes. It's not just about fear. They're literally destroying the economic base that would change the minds of the black community from socialism to capitalism. This is amazing. Moving on. I don't know why this PDF is like... Okay. Betrayal of the Negro people may well come through communist corruption of the Negro intellectual. This is not so difficult since the communists, the white liberals, and the white progressives do the thinking for most of them. Ooh! The utter bankruptcy of the Negro intelligentsia is startlingly evident by reason of the absence of any strong and dramatic movement for genuine Negro organization, leadership, and thinking. Deep in the swamp of inferiority, lack of ability, moral thought, the Negro intelligentsia looks to the phony white liberals, politicians, and progressive hypocrites for leadership, guidance, and money. Oh, Soros daddy. Soros, give me some money. These whites are carriers of isms other than Americanism, which spreads like an epidemic in the ranks of the hapless Negro intellectuals. Oh man. Oh man. Oh, this is tasty, man. The great majority are not highly skilled, trained to fit into industry during this atomic age. Okay, this is what I wanted to read. Thanks to W.E.B. Du Bois, and Monroe Trotter for their indefatigable toil, tireless toil, to defeat the industrial training program of Booker T. Washington, my hero. I'm going to visit Tuskegee University when this BS is over because the man is so inspirational. Please read Booker T. Washington's autobiography from slavery, which would have made the Negro an indispensable part of American industry. Booker T. Washington's philosophy of education was to prepare the majority of Negroes through vocational training to play a vital role in the rapidly developing American economy before and after the turn of the century, 1800s. He undoubtedly foresaw the process of industrialization, the ensuing demand for trained, qualified personnel, i.e., skilled tradesmen who could be relied upon to do a job efficiently and well. Oh, why do we look down on blue-collar black folk? Oh, there's layers to this, baby, man. There's like a whole black woman, black guy thing, and the college, and the blue collar, and etc., etc. This is old, man. They've been doing this for such a long time. My God. Such training would enable the Negro to maintain his favored position after slavery and place him in a better competitive position against immigrants in the labor market. Immigration was a thing back then. He stressed pride of race, home ownership, land ownership, along with industrial and agricultural training. Yep, Booker T. Washington. My man. Come on. Okay. Many Negroes realized that Du Bois was wrong then as he is today in his attempt to steer them down the road to communism. Further, the average Negro realizes that his happiness and well-being are not served to him on a silver platter, but come as a result of hard and difficult struggle. He therefore seeks 1. Practical solutions to all his problems, and 2. A way to get along with other Americans with the least possible friction. Sagely, he realizes that a man cannot live constantly in the miasmic fog of race hostility without stifling to death, nor can he live fighting out other Americans all the time. 1958 publication. He tragically thought that most black people got it, and maybe they did back then, but this process, this brainwashing, this conditioning, this mutilation of black thought has continued for decades to the point where, yes, black folks today are stifling to death in a miasmic fog of race hostility, and they fight and they live fighting all other Americans all the time. Literally right now. It's what's happened. Sad. Weird. On the other hand, the vociferous Negro intellectuals, along with the Reds, through their impractical, unrealistic, alien behavior, turn race relations into a shambles. Every Negro who opposes integration and the NAACP becomes a traitor or an Uncle Tom. Good Lord. Every white person taking a similar stand is branded a criminal and outside of the law. The fact that courts have been known to reverse themselves and that under our system of government, every American has the right to protest and oppose any ruling considered onerous or prejudicial is ignored. Stupidly, they go about their business of forcing everybody to conform or be damned. What? Those building up fires of resentment that will require the work of centuries to extinguish. What? Already under the guise of struggling for Negro rights, they have created all the explosive material for racial violence by making impossible demands, resisting sane and just decisions, opposing compromise and adjustment, and demanding that everything must be done forthwith or not at all. They have no love for their own people. They have no love for America. Naturally, they get the Kremlin support and approval. Feeling frustrated and inferior, they run to communism and civil disobedience in their folly. They play Moscow's game, and they deserve whatever red reward that is due them. This guy was based, man. Man, we used to be based. I don't know what's happened to us. Well, I do know. It's been done on purpose by the commies, or the Marxists, or fellow travelers, or sympathizers, or whoever. You can think that, after the Soviet Union, all this ended, but you'll be a fool. It didn't end. The methods are still there. You think Russia stopped wanting to be superior to the US? You think China stopped wanting to win? Even if the Soviet Union is dead, they developed all these things, man. This playbook, you're seeing it right now today. They're allied with Cuba, with Iran, with everybody. The UN. It's classic communist tactics, man. All right, and this is the last quote I'll give you guys. This writer sat in on meetings of the National Committee, the Politburo, and also the Negro Commission of the Communist Party in 1934 and 35, when the new line was discussed in relation to the Negro. The chief topic was how to bring the NAACP, Urban League, Elks, women's groups, youth, religious and labor organizations into a deceptive democratic front to advance the cause of communism among large, influential, and decisive segments of the Negro people. Out of these discussions came the recommendations on how best to carry out Moscow's order to build a National Negro Congress in America. Folks, in conclusion, the Black American has been taken out of slavery like iron out of a mine, melted down, removed impurities like conservative black folk, and then hammered, heated, hammered, folded, heated, hammered, folded, heated, folded, hammered, and then ground into a sword with a sharp edge, a racial edge, to cut America in half, to cut America to pieces. This is what the left, the communists, the Soviets, the progressives, the liberals, have done with the black community. They've made a travesty and a tragedy of these people. Thank you guys very much for listening. Stay woke, and see you next time.